for multimedia presentation. Our thesis for this report presentation is, even though there are negative impacts from tourism in third world countries, most third world countries have developed unique methods of tourism to positively impact their economies, communities, and environment. To show that, we're going to discuss three different types of tourism that is commonly used by third world countries around the world. The first one is called slum tourism. Slum tourism has been practiced for several years as a way to decrease a nation's poverty. Slum tourism is an idea that creating a tourist attraction in a poor, rundown area helps to generate tourism in that area, which generates revenue and helps the local community. It is important to make sure that tourism is having a positive impact and is being handled responsibly. There are four types of descriptions, resources, and productions of the slums. Type 1 divides former agricultural land, which can produce tourism and natural capital from agricultural fields. Type 2 involves informal settlements on state-owned land. Type 3 involves historic cities with old, crowded, deteriorating buildings. And the fourth type is ancient cemeteries, which the natural capital is highly calcareous loams. The next type of tourism that we're going to talk about is medical tourism. Medical tourism is the ability for countries to work together in the medical field to send patients to different countries for medical care that may not be provided in their own country or may be provided at a much lower rate or quicker than in their home country. This has become popular around the world for the fact that the process would be cheaper going to a provider in a third world country. Also, the patient doesn't have to play the waiting game. If it is a procedure that needs to be done immediately and the patient has the capital to pay for it, it is very easy to get it scheduled in a third world country compared to their own country. Now, there are some possible bad side effects or threats to medical tourism. First, you've got a chance of getting diseases that aren't available in your, or that aren't common in your current country. You also may have to travel immediately after surgery, which is not necessarily the best thing to do. And there's a chance of dissatisfaction of the care that is received because of the difference in culture and standards. The fourth type of tourism that we're going to discuss is ecotourism. Ecotourism is intended to be a low-impact form of tourism designed to promote environmental conservation and sustainable tourism. Ecotourism creates opportunities for local communities to keep and value natural resources rather than exploiting them. This includes preserving the flora, fauna, and even cultural traditions of the country, as done by the Red Ridge region in our Sharon book. Allowing local communities to facilitate tours will minimize the impact of multinational corporations and keep the focus on small-scale local preservation and sustainability. Ecotourism programs can be introduced for the conservation of endangered species. Ecotourism is not only good for third world developing countries, it's also been very beneficial in developed nations to help them cover the protection costs or conservation costs of special areas in those countries. Now let me turn it over to Natalie, who's going to talk about
Hi,
slum
my name is Natalie Zerfus, and today I will be talking to you about slum tourism. Tourism is an idea that has been practiced for several years as a way to decrease a nation's poverty. Tourism is often defined as traveling to another location for fun, recreation, relaxation, or even business. At some point in time, we have all been a tourist or seen a tourist. A relatively new concept is called slum tourism or slumming. Slum tourism is an idea that creating tourist destinations and attractions in poor rundown areas or developing countries will increase the area's income, jobs, and resources. While slum tourism has been found to be very effective, it must be handled positively and responsibly in order to succeed. Today we will look at the products of slums, potential problems with slum tourism, as well as possible approaches specifically in Egypt. To begin, we will look at 4 types of descriptions, resources, and products of slums. Type 1 divides former agricultural land, which can be used to produce tourism and natural capital, from agricultural fields. Type 2 involves informal settlements on state-owned land, which produces capital from urban family visits. Type 3 involves the historic cities with old, crowded, deteriorating buildings, which can produce capital from traditional market visits. The picture you see here is a traditional market. Type 4 is ancient cemeteries in which capital is produced by volunteer tours. These 4 types were developed in order to solve the urban planning issues. When looking at planning for tourism and using the available resources, it is important to try to preserve natural land and beauty as much as possible. This graph shows you the different types and descriptions and possible tourism production resources. So the most confusing one for a lot of people is type 4 when it talks about the cemeteries. Cairo is often called the city of the dead because there are so many graves there, but people will often live there and work there in order to be close to their relatives. So next we will look at the problems. With foreign countries come different traditions and standards of living. In developing countries where slum tourism is common, the standards of living are lower than those of richer countries. Since hotels, houses, and buildings are more run down, travelers feel unsafe. Standards have been established in order to deem whether or not a location is safe. A location is only deemed unsafe if the conditions are immediately life-threatening or housing and hotels are inappropriate. Locals also play a large role in whether or not tourism is successful. If locals do not support tourism in their area, it will not succeed and will end up being a lost cause and a waste of money. With the emphasis of education in today's society, people are traveling not just for recreation, but also in an attempt to be educated or educate their children. With the insight of locals, education is easier and more beneficial. Local volunteers working with tourism destination provides a unique experience for cultural immersion and social interaction with local people. Working with the locals allows a tourist to feel more connected to the destination and surrounding environment. Locals need to feel welcome in all the projects as well as feel as if they are benefiting from those projects. We saw an example of this in the Scarlet Macaw, just how much locals can make or break a cause. Through much discussion, it can be seen that there are tactical ways that tourism can survive and even thrive in the slums. The way tourism is run in an area affects not only the effectiveness of tourism on the traveler, but the citizens and inhabitants as well. It can positively affect the living conditions as well as the way tourism is seen by locals. While developing a tourist destination in a slum is not easy, as you can see, there are several steps that can be taken that can cause great benefits.
Hi, my name is Nicole Manier, and for this part of the presentation, I will be covering medical tourism. Tourism in our time is no longer about going to the most popular places in the world, visiting historical monuments, or sightseeing. In our current time, it means so much more. What exactly is medical tourism? Medical tourism is the ability for countries to work together in the medical field to send patients to different countries for medical care that may not be provided in their own country. There are several different types of procedures that can be conducted, such as cosmetic surgery, cardiac surgery, organ transplant, dental procedures, gender reconstructive surgery, and reproductive technology, just to name a few. Some of the more popular countries to travel for medical tourism are Thailand, India, Israel, China, Germany, and Canada. Each of these countries are known for the different types of medical care that they are able to provide, but a majority of the countries that were listed are able to do a variety of the procedures that were previously mentioned. The positive impacts of medical tourism. People have found various benefits for medical tourism, including low costs, faster waiting periods, medical services that may not be available in a person's own country. In the United States, there are several people that do not have medical insurance coverage to have a necessary surgery that would cost someone more than what they would be able to afford comfortably. The ability to travel to another country that would be able to perform the same type of surgery but for less than half the cost is a huge benefit for a numerous amount of people. Another advantage would be that there is not such a long waiting list or waiting periods for a medical procedure to be conducted, such as having an organ transplant, such as a kidney transplant. There is long waiting periods and even longer donor lists. By using medical tourism, you're able to go outside of your own country to be able to even find a donor that might be a match instead of just being limited to somebody's own country. This would cut down on the waiting period to have the necessary surgery, which is a huge benefit for a lot of people. They're able to even have the surgery done right away after finding the match. When it comes to medical insurance, there are many different things that insurance companies just refuse to pay because of wide range reasons that would lead a person to seek out medical tourism to a country that would be able to do the surgery or medical procedure for them. A common surgery that medical insurance companies don't take is the gender reconstructive surgery, because a lot of the insurance companies don't feel like it's a necessary surgery, so they just refuse to cover it. So people that are wanting this type of surgery are able to have this surgery done in another country and for a pretty cheap cost. Even though there are some great benefits for medical tourism, there are some negative impacts for medical tourism as well, such as being exposed to other illnesses or diseases, traveling after a surgery, and dissatisfaction of care. Anytime a person travels to a different part of the world, there are always different kind of procedures that need to be done to make sure that somebody is not exposed to other illnesses or diseases that they would not be exposed to in their own country. Such as traveling to Africa, people are supposed to get different types of vaccines before traveling there so that they don't get exposed to the different types of diseases or illnesses that are found just in Africa. Another disadvantage that is seen with medical tourism is the waiting period after having a major surgery done. Many people do not stay at the hospital for very long after a surgery, but instead they're able to recover in the own comfort of their home, where they're able to take their time in the healing process. People are traveling right after their medical help, which is causing complications in the procedure that was just completed. It's normal for a person that is having a procedure done in a different country to take about a week time to recover from their surgery and then get on a plane and travel back home. But a week is not usually enough time to be able to do such great traveling. If you were traveling from the United States to China, that's a pretty long flight to be having right after a major surgery. Finally, the last disadvantage of medical tourism is dissatisfaction of care. The way that medical tourism works is that you have a medical agent that is able to find the right physician to perform the surgery procedure that you're looking for. In some cases, the physician that is found is not the best of the best, but is just able to do that type of procedure for the tourist. And so a lot of people are getting dissatisfied with the type of care because they're used to their own country and how they're doing the procedures in their own country. And so they're not used to the customs from somebody else's country. It used to be that people would travel to a more developed country for these type of procedures, but today it's just the opposite with medical tourism. And medical tourism is on the rise as more people are finding out about the advantages. But people that are thinking about doing medical tourism need to really think about if the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Thank you very much.